Ladies and gentlemen, it has happened. The thing that we were all anticipating to occur that still feels surreal has officially happened today. Or yesterday, rather. Today, at the time of recording this. Yesterday, by the time this will be uploaded. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots and Robert Kraft have mutually agreed to part ways, which means Bill Belichick, after 24 illustrious seasons, will no longer be the head coach of the New England Patriots going into 2024 and beyond. This is something I've been kind of on and off been calling for throughout this season. This season has been by far the worst that this franchise has had since, ironically, Belichick's first year, the year 2000, when the team finished 5-11. And this is a low point for this franchise that they have not experienced in a long time. And it was a move that had to happen. I alluded to this in the podcast. This was something that needed to come around. But even then, it still feels surprising. It still doesn't feel fully real. I've been preparing myself as a Patriots fan for when this day was going to come. I knew that this was going to most likely happen by season's end. But it still doesn't feel fully real because Bill Belichick has been the head coach of this team for quite literally my entire life. Like I said, he was the head coach starting from the year 2000. I was born in the year 2000. So he has been quite literally the head coach of this franchise for my entire life. Today is the first day since I have been put onto this earth that he will not be the head coach of my beloved New England Patriots. And that is something that is so weird to wrap my head around, even though I've been mentally preparing myself for this day to come. And even then, when you put yourself in a situation where you're trying to mentally prepare for something, when it comes around, you still don't know how to fully feel. And that's how I am right now. I'm still sad about it. Now, if I sat here and tried to list off every accomplishment of Bill Belichick and his time in New England, we'd be here all night. 6-time Super Bowl champion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the most wins by a head coach in the postseason in NFL history. He's going to leave New England 15 wins shy of Don Shula's all-time record, which is a record that I most certainly believe that he will get with another team, and when he does, that's going to probably sting more than anything. Kind of like when Brady became the all-time passing leader and all-time touchdowns leader. He accomplished those in Tampa Bay. And knowing that Bill Belichick is going to most likely break Don Shula's record with another franchise is going to absolutely sting. But like I said, for right now, for how this year went, it was necessary, it was needed for him to not be involved anymore. And it kind of proved to me that maybe he just didn't want to take a reduced role. My understanding is that they have had, it wasn't just one meeting that him and Robert Kraft had, it was multiple meetings over the past few days, and they just weren't able to come to an agreement. So my guess is he was offered to relinquish GM responsibilities, and he wasn't okay with doing that, and they both felt the need that, you know what, it's best to just move on. And I saw the press conference today. I rewatched the press conference today, and you definitely got that sense that this genuinely was mutual. You always hear that a lot of times where teams are like, okay, this team and so coach mutually agreed to part ways. And most of the time that it's just corporate PR mumbo jumbo that doesn't really actually mean that it was mutual. This, you actually got the sense that this was a mutual parting. But now the question moving forward is, what is the future of Bill Belichick? And more importantly, or not really more importantly, one thing is not more important than the other. What is the future of Bill Belichick, and what is the future of the New England Patriots? I'm going to start with talking about Belichick's future first, because all indications, all reports have been saying that he intends to still be a coach. Robert Kraft in the press conference today said that, basically alluded to the fact that he absolutely will be coaching against this team in the near future. So Belichick still has that fire, that passion to be a coach, and you know he wants more than anything to break Don Shula's all-time wins record. I don't blame him. He's 15 wins shy of it. I don't blame him for wanting that. But the question is where? The big name, the big team that was circulating around Belichick's name when the season ended was the Atlanta Falcons, who had fired Arthur Smith. And another team that I also think is a realistic landing spot with a head coaching vacancy is the Los Angeles Chargers. So those are the two that I think are more realistic here. Atlanta and the Chargers, with the Washington Commanders being a bit of a wild card. I think Washington's probably the least likely landing spot, though I can imagine the Josh Harris company there in Washington would love to bring in a guy like Bill Belichick if he wants to instill a culture and get this franchise back to what it once was. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to bring in a guy like Bill Belichick for that, but how appealing is that job for a guy like Belichick? And, you know, considering they brought in two new guys in Rick Spielman and Bob Myers to really reshape this. If the issue with back in New England was Belichick wasn't willing to relinquish player personnel decisions, if that is what Spielman and Myers were also brought in to do, then I don't know if Belichick would be okay with that, and I don't know if the Josh Harris group would be fully willing to do that. But Atlanta and the Chargers absolutely would. If there are two owners in the NFL that I would say would look at a guy like Bill Belichick and be like, hey, if you want, we will give you everything. We will give you everything you could possibly want. If you want to be the GM, we'll give you that. You want full say in player personnel decisions, we will give you that power. As long as you come here and we can win a championship or two. If there are two owners that would be more than willing to do that for a guy like Bill Belichick, it would be Arthur Blank and Dean Spanos. Two teams, two franchises, two cities, two owners who are desperate to see a championship brought to their city. And Bill Belichick, with the rosters they have, would absolutely be a contending team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which has been the biggest bugaboo for the New England Patriots over the past few seasons, even though, again, Belichick is the reason why that has been the case. Now, that's for Belichick. And again, Atlanta's really appealing because you're going to have a lot of talents on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback is a team that it's going to be a big issue for them, though. They're going to have to find a quarterback in some way, shape, or form. But they do have some pieces on the defense as well, so that can be something for Belichick to work with. And then the Chargers, I mean, my God, you want to talk about coming there and being a contender right off the rip. I mean, offensively, you're set. You have Justin Herbert. You still have Keenan Allen. Who knows how many years he has left in him, but he's still just as productive as ever. Austin Eckler's still productive. They have good weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But the defensive side, I don't know how much longer Khalil Mack has left in him, but he's still there. Joey Bosa is still a game wrecker when he's healthy. And Derwin James is arguably the best safety in football. They have the pieces. Can you imagine Bill Belichick? You can imagine a guy like Bill Belichick would be foaming at the mouth to coach guys like Joey Bosa and Derwin James. Like, oh my God. So I can imagine he would love to go to Los Angeles and play and coach for the Chargers and restore the glory with that franchise. That would be an incredible landing spot for him. But that's for Belichick. What do the Patriots do? What is it that the New England Patriots are looking at? And there's really two names and two names only. First being Mike Vrabel. His name has been thrown around a lot these past few days since his firing. And that was a surprise firing that really started this unbelievable domino effect from him. And then Pete Carroll loses his job, even though he will still be involved with the Seahawks organization in some way. He won't be the head coach there anymore. And then Saban retires a few hours later, which was huge news in and of itself. And then the following morning, Belichick gets let go as the head coach of the Patriots. So Vrabel started this whole domino effect, but you can imagine he would love to be the guy to be the successor to Bill Belichick. Long-time player in New England, kind of coaches in a similar style like Belichick, preaches a lot of the same philosophies. He would be a great guy if Robert Kraft doesn't want to deviate too far from the Belichick tree, even though Vrabel was never a coach under Belichick. He basically preaches his own version of the Patriot way, and I think he would be a perfect role for that, considering I still think he's a great head coach that was unfairly let go by the Titans organization, which I still believe they're going to seriously regret in the long term. But Vrabel's a guy, and the other guy, which I think is probably the most realistic situation, is a guy they've been grooming for a year now, close to a year now, and that's Jerod Mayo. Jerod Mayo, he got head coaching consideration with the Carolina Panthers at the end of last season. He turned that down to come back to New England as the defensive coordinator or the defensive play caller. And then you started hearing grumblings from within in the organization and even outside of the organization, because I remember when the Patriots released that statement, that public statement about how they had retained Jerod Mayo and how they were intending not to let him go. When the Patriots don't let anything, the Patriots don't let anything outside of the walls of Gillette Stadium. But they chose to release that to the public. So at the very least, Robert Kraft views him highly, and Bill Belichick viewed him highly enough to be all right with the idea of he should be the next in line. After all, there was reports when they were doing interviews for offensive coordinator jobs last year, there was reports coming out that Jerod Mayo was sitting in those meetings, probably with Belichick showing him the ropes on how to actually do this, how to do interviews for coordinator jobs and filling out your coaching staff, kind of to show him the ropes to that. So the fact that he was involved in that and that he's been held in such high regard and he's been a player with New England for a long time and he was a coach here for so long, and the fact that he basically has Belichick's blessing to be the next guy in line and Robert Kraft's blessing to be the next guy in line, all the signs point to he's most likely going to take over. And he's been a player's guy. The players love him. After all, he was a former player there for so long. Makes sense why he would be the guy to preach his own version of the Belichick way. And it's bringing in a guy like Mayo, or not bringing him in, but promoting him would be a great way to keep continuity a little bit, not completely drastically change everything. And it also eliminates the need to do like a serious hiring process because all they can do is just give him the promotion without even really needing to do a lengthy hiring process or interview process. They could just promote Jerron Mayo. I think that's where it's pointing to. I genuinely believe that Mayo's the next guy. If it's not Mayo, it would be Vrabel. Honestly, I'd be shocked if it was anybody else. Could they go after a Ben Johnson? Yeah. Could they go after another young offensive mind potentially to really hit the reset button fully and get rid of the Belichick mindset and bring in a new fresh face with a new fresh set of eyes and rebuild this thing because they are staring in the face of a rebuild? That is realistic for sure. But all the signs have pointed to Robert Kraft doesn't want to deviate too much from what has worked for the past 24 years. Or the first 20 of those 24 years. But it's an end of an era, and wherever Belichick goes, I wish him the absolute best. And I really do hope he breaks that record, because if anybody deserves to break Shula's record, it is him. And it's going to be different. It's going to be very, very different, because I've lived my entire life with Brady and or Belichick, and now no longer are they there. And that's the sign that the dynasty is officially over. And that is a tough realization to swallow. But that is it. That is all. And Belichick, wish you luck on your future endeavors.